joining us as he always does. All right, now are you going to have enough time after our segment is over to race to Dillon Butler Stadium to be a part of this alleged announcement at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a helicopter just bring me right over to Citi Field. So LaGuardia's right there, so it'll be all good.
You're not going to get into any trouble violating any flight rules or anything like that?
I don't. I mean, it's my stadium, so
yes. So when this came up, the announcement came about live, work, play, Willets Point, and all the stuff that we've been discussing in the past. Are you still, are you still kind of sitting there and going, okay, I'm going to be Missouri here, or I'm going to be Missouri and show me? Or is this like, honestly, the rubber hitting the road and it's gone from probably, possibly, maybe to an actual something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happening. Now it's more a point of the timeline, right? Like, when is it happening? I know that NYCFC were originally keen to have it ready for the start of the 2026 World Cup. It doesn't seem like that is likely. It's they're pointing towards 2027. You just hope after such a long wait for the fans that there isn't more of whether it's red tape or construction issues. I mean, the fact that they're reportedly picking up the entire tab, I think helps, right? So you don't need to get that money earmarked from some government agency, like you've got it, right? So maybe that also would potentially perhaps speed up the process a little bit. Maybe like I know the LaGuardia Airport had like a ton of construction work done there and revitalization of it. And I know that there's like, clauses in there for if you get the job done ahead of time, you get a certain bonus, so maybe City Football Group can throw in some sort of incentive there for those who are doing the construction work on that. So.
All right, so for those of us that don't know the geography where Dillon Butler Stadium is, it's in the Willets Point neighborhood. Break down where in Queens it is in proportion to other landmarks and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest to say is, if you are familiar with Flushing Meadows Corona Park, if you're familiar with Citi Field and the National Tennis Center, it's all right there, right? Like it's all in the same. Think in terms of like the stadiums in Philadelphia, right? Like how close they all are, and they kind of share similar parking lots. It would be a similar situation to that. Right now, it's a portion by Citi Field called the Iron Triangle, where there's like a lot of chop shops and stuff like that. That's part of it is getting rid of those, and that's part of the revitalization of that area. It's right off. You don't have to build infrastructure for travel because it's already there, right? The 7 train runs right there. The Long Island Railroad runs right there. You're super close to the Whitestone Bridge, the RFK Bridge. So ideal spot. Not just because of all of that infrastructure or all of those infrastructure reasons, but for others that I've detailed where, I lived, I lived in Queens for all my entire life. I know the area. I know there's such a rich soccer / football culture all along that 7 train line, right? Like you've got Colombians and Ecuadorians and Argentines and Mexicans and Irish and English. Like it's incredible. Greek in Astoria, like Italian. Like there's so many cultural groups all along the lines of the 7 train. Like almost at any stop, like you get off at 74th Street, the smells in the air are incredible, like the Indian restaurants and the food carts. So absolutely, perfect. Again, I think location for this.
You're making me hungry, by the way. I don't know if you've had breakfast yet. I have not. I traditionally am not a breakfast person. I go straight to brunch. But you're making me hungry with all with all of the smells in the neighborhood. Okay, a couple of questions from folks. Bernd is very, very busy this morning, so he's got a couple for you. First question: do you think NYCFC will play at Citi Field instead of Yankee Stadium after this development, before the new stadium starts up? That is.
I think they should, and we've spoken about this before. Now, look, you want your fans and the fan base, and you want to connect with the neighboring communities, right? And the best way to do that, I think, is just move all your games there, right? Like, work it out with the Mets, and figure out a way to get all of your home games there. But I think that would be a really smart move for them. Just one, for them to get used to the vicinity, but also for the local fans, right? Like, you don't want them to have to wait till 2027 to kind of know where what food cart they want to go to, or what bar they want to go to, or
it's like a dry run, basically.
How can they tailgate? 100%. Yeah. So you'll have a few years to do that. And from everything that I've gathered from the fan experience and everything else, it seems like Citi Field is a better option for the NYCFC fan than Yankee Stadium is, for multiple reasons. Again, parking is more plentiful at Citi Field. It's more difficult at Yankee Stadium. You can tailgate at Citi Field. I think the Long Island fan, or even other borough fans, I think it's sometimes easier, I think, to get over to Queens than it is necessarily to get up to the Bronx.
Second question from Byrne as a follow-up: do you think Citigroup will buy out the Yankees portion?
Byrne, bring in all the great questions. I think they should. What was the why bring in the Yankees initially, right? It's the stadium and it's the network.
Mm-hmm.
You're likely, or again, we just detailed, you probably shouldn't play at that stadium anymore, and you don't have the network right now, the whole Apple deal and all the local networks. So there is, to me, no reason. And the other part of it too with the Yankees, I think, was, they just went through a stadium build as well, right? Like, so they were believed to have had all the those political connections and all those ways to work it out in New York City, how to get a stadium built. So that, almost in a consulting sense, that they were going to help Citi Football Group. That didn't work either. So I think I don't see any value for the Yankees to continue to have a portion of the ownership. And again, Citi Football Group prints money. So I don't think that will be an issue for them. But I think, yes, the long answer of it is they should buy out the Yankees.
Because you're looking at $780, I think, was the number that was being posted. $780 extra large for the whole live, work, play thing. 250 room hotel, 10 times that for apartment/condo living that I guess they think they'll make back. So 2,500 units for living, 250 for a hotel. I think it was that same number of acres, roughly somewhere between 250 and 300 acres that you're looking to develop there for Dillon Butler Stadium when it comes to the four. And
wow, will those stadium rights be you got to recover some of that money. So
well, yeah, and when you're in this right now, this is what we're seeing it on the lower, in the lower divisions a lot, where the lower division teams understand that this is what's going to keep the facility viable over a full 12-month period. It's the full live, work, play thing. In USL League One, we're seeing it in Chattanooga with the development there. We're seeing it in Statesboro, Georgia, with the USL League One champs. They're building their live, work, play philosophy, and their facilities being there, brought to the fore. Lexington is doing that kind of a thing, and so now you're seeing a larger scale version of that So City Football Group understands the idea to keep something viable for a full 12 months. You've got to keep Dillon Butler Stadium occupied. And if it's folks that are shopping, folks that are eating, folks that are living there, you're going to keep all the attention there all year round.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to a lesser extent, that was part of the whole plan with the Red Bulls when they moved to Harrison, and that's continuing still to this day, where you're seeing, living spaces and the restaurants opening up and things of that nature, and that the Path Station being made new. So a lot of it's happening there as well. Columbus is right, similar situation there too.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing what's going on. Burned once again bringing the fire this morning. His money's on Etihad Stadium.
Oh yeah, 100%. That is the leader at the clubhouse. There is no doubt about it. Etihad Field at Etihad Stadium.
Yep.
Or
Yes, and then perhaps you'll see Pep Guardiola wandering the touchline or having some kind of a role with NYCFC by that particular point.
He loves New York.
What's the mug this morning, sir?
We're going Dad.
Okay, so the Dad mug is out this morning. I forgot to ask you about your high school experience this past weekend, but to get things started. So what happened with your high school experience last weekend?
The Friday night game, because of this crazy weather that was coming up the coast, got moved to Saturday night. So it ended up being a bit of a day-night doubleheader for me. So I had a 1:00 game between Holy Trinity and Fordham Prep, and then a 7:00 rivalry game between St. Anthony's and Chaminade. So the favorites won there, and much like the MLS Cup playoffs, the top two seeds in each of the conferences in the Catholic Football League are playing each other in the championship games, and I have that championship triple header.
Ooh.
Saturday. Yeah. A lot of phone calls with coaches, a lot of chart work, adding up stats, 11, 2, and 5, and there is no way the 5:00 game gets off at 5:00. So I would say 7:00 at the earliest. We're looking at temperatures in the low 40s, high 30s for the nice open window press box. So
are you allowed a space heater below your?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my hat here. I'm gonna go a little Jason right here. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that look a little bit. Get the get layers and that. I'm not sure about the space heater. I think so. So.
Okay. MLS free agency. We have free agency names. Are you anticipating free agent frenzy? Are you anticipating agents knocking on people's doors at 12:59 later today and sitting there going, "Hey, we want your client. We want your client at 12:59," and then it's like, "I'm not allowed to open the door till 1:00." Those kinds of things. Or in Seattle, "I'm not allowed to open the door till 10 a.m."
Well, what did we see last year too? Right, we saw Sean Davis get the private jet picks him up, and he gets treated to the suite at a Nashville Predators game, right? Like, so, and we also saw the value in it, right? Like, all you have to do is look at who won the MLS Cup, and some of their biggest move, or one of their most important moves was a free agency move, right? And bringing in Ilie. So
yes,
as the parameters expand in MLS free agency, so too the importance of free agency, right? It's not quite, that of other sports yet, right? We don't have a full show to figure out a decision being made by a certain player yet. Maybe that changed with the Apple TV deal, but there's certainly plenty of quality players out there. I think it'll be an interesting few weeks. I think the World Cup maybe changes that a little bit, because there's decisions to be made for certain guys who are free agents, perhaps going to Europe. You think of an Aaron Long, right?
Yes.
Where he's a guy who twice at least had moves set up to go. I think it was West Ham both times, and both times the Red Bulls nixed those moves. Now he's a free agent. He doesn't have to worry about the Red Bulls nixing a move, and he made it clear that he wants to go to Europe, right? So maybe he has a good World Cup and those suitors come calling. So Jonathan Osorio, another guy as well, who's been linked with moves overseas. So I don't know if it's going to be a frenzy immediately, but there will be some there is talent out there for sure.
I know that we all kind of sit there and we're looking at big names and things like that when it comes to players who might be in demand. And I know that's also tied to what your team philosophy is more than anything else. But, you mentioned Osorio. Who else would sit there and be like maybe your top 5 or 7 names that you want to keep an eye on the Dylan Butler free agent tracker? Who are the guys that you are interested in seeing who moves the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two of the biggest ones are right here in New York City, right? Like, I think Alex Callens is right at the very top of that list. I've got to think that to me, NYCFC had 3 big decisions to make at the start or the end of the season, the start of the off season. You had 3 big names who were out of contract. It was Anton Tinnerholm, Alex Callens, and Sean Johnson. Not necessarily in that order of importance. Tinnerholm is going back to Sweden, so that's taken care of, and they sign, his now full-time replacement, Tavon Gray, to a new contract.
Right.
Now your other 2 are the big ones, right? Callens and Johnson. To me, you've got to lock up Callens first. That's super important, and he's going to command a good amount of money for sure. I love Sean Johnson for a number of reasons. I love who he is in the locker room. It's the big reason why he's in Qatar right now. The leadership factor, he's very good as well. We know that goalkeepers have a longer shelf life, right? Like they like fine wine, they get better with age. It would be a great bit of business to keep both of them for sure. But I think if it's like a one or the other, you keep an Alex Callens, and then you figure out your goalkeeping situation. But obviously, yes, NYCFC wants to keep both. But they're right at the very top of it. Long again, Osorio, like a Derek Etienne is another guy who can provide value with explosiveness on the wing. I don't think there's a lot of depth in terms of wingers this year, so he's a guy for sure. I think those are your biggest impact guys, and then you kind of maybe take a step below, and you've got guys who who could be depth pieces, like a Sebastian Ibiaga, for example, who was originally NYCFC, now with LAFC. He's provided minutes defensively there. Tyler Miller, James Pantemis, in terms of goalkeepers, right? Those are guys who can provide some, depth, maybe a goalkeeper, or push for a top position. I think Orion Hollingshead still has some value. We saw that this year, right? What's tough with him is just like age-wise, when does he age out, right? Like we saw it with, like, we were talking about Sporting, right, for so long, and they seemed like they were getting older and older. And Portland too, but Portland didn't age out, right? Like, and the Sporting guys did. Like, what's that cliff, right? What's that level for Hollingshead? So that's a good question there. And even a Franco Escobar too. He's another guy probably has interest overseas as well, but he's a possibility. And Seba Mendez is a super interesting one, right? Like, what's his deal? Is he also another guy making a move? So to me, I think those are some of the biggest ones. You've got Corey Burke testing the waters. I think he has a great role in Philly if it's embraced, but again, you have an opportunity of free agency. You want to test and see what money's out there. So I think he's another interesting one, but I do think he's got a good fit there in Philly. Those to me are probably some of the bigger ones. Again, Eric Remedi, again, I think at this point of his career, probably that depth piece at a number 6.
Right.
But we've seen how valuable number 6s are. Maybe not as, maybe a little bit below those guys, but yeah, no, there's value out there for sure.
I don't know if you've heard, but there's a tournament starting this weekend that involves a couple of countries, and
Is it a U.S. Mexico tournament, like another? Did we add like a sixth one?
Yeah, the Dylan Butler extravaganza, the Dylan Butler soccer extravaganza
Right.
is what we've been added. When it comes to the tournament in Qatar, by the way, I am opening up the forbidden door for the entire tournament for all of our guests to basically come in whenever they like and discuss things, because I figured during our time there's going to be a match on, and obviously we can't take over for John and Stu, but we can talk about what happened in the match that happened while we were sleeping. We can preview what's going to happen later in the day and kind of work our way around. So if you, and I'm going to send a link out every morning. So if you want to come in at another time in and around and apart from your normal Wednesday visit, the forbidden door is open. So you can come in at any time during the tournament just to kind of sit there, say hi. It could be 5 minutes, could be 30 seconds, could be whatever. So I'm letting you know right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're going to be getting an invite in your mailbox every morning, and you'll be like, no, I don't want to have to put up with Nelson this morning. So no. But when it comes to this tournament in and of itself, where the U.S. is concerned, let me ask it two ways.
Yep.
What are you the most optimistic about where the U.S. is concerned? And then what troubles you the most about where the U.S. is concerned?
Optimistic. I would think it's more sort of a macro optimism that the World Cup always opens up the sport to fans who are not soccer fans, right? Like the casual sports fan. So it's a window of opportunity, especially from a U.S. standpoint now, to hook in some people, right? Like the storyline is clear for this U.S. team, right? The youngest team at the World Cup. These are guys who play in the best leagues, and now this competition is coming to our shores in 4 years. So it's my optimism is for a good showing, or maybe it's more of a hope, I guess, but it is for a positive showing from a very young American team that then springboards the talk for in 4 years' time, right? To do that, clearly you've got to get out of the group. Would love to see at least one knockout round win. Two would be amazing. But for sure you have to get out of the group. The worry or the concern for me is when you saw the way the U.S. struggled in their final two tune-up matches. Those teams were picked for a reason, because that's the way that teams in their group are going to play against them. And there was a struggle there. So that concerns me, that, to see the same style and then to struggle against it is a concern. I'm concerned, as much as you are excited about the youth and the future, that also worries me here, right? Because it's, while they have stepped up in big spots against Mexico, that's still familiar for them. Wales and England and Iran and the magnitude of the World Cup is not. So my concern is maybe it being too big of a stage for the young American players, which then, again, then it's craziness on U.S. soccer Twitter and calling Berhalter out. And
that's never happened.
I would love for somehow this tournament to end with an optimistic tone for however the U.S. or at whatever stage the U.S. exits.
Then taking your optimistic tone as a part of the equation, if there is reason for optimism after the tournament is over, do you still bring back 3GB, or are you the kind of guy that sits there and it's like, no, one cycle's good for me when it comes to who my my World Cup, my national team manager is. What's your philosophy on that?
I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not completely against it, but it is a long stretch of time. But I don't just go for a change for the sake of change or because of, term limits, if you will, right? Like I don't, I think it could still work, beyond 4 years.
Although everybody sits there and points at Jurgen Klinsmann and Sanu Galati, and they're like, okay.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. And I think the intrigue a little bit then is, even though he's kind of, he's made recent statements to say that he is maybe not for the international game, but I think he's just looking to make sure that his bosses are happy with him. But I think of a Jesse Marsh as obviously being the next ideal candidate, right? System wise, playing with these young guys, you've already got so many of these guys at Leeds, so where there's certainly a familiar factor there with him. But I think how the U.S. does in Qatar obviously is going to dictate sort of those decisions going forward.
And the Airborne DJ's in this morning about the successor, whenever that happens, with Berhalter. I'm still dreaming about the possibility of Pep. He said he wants a national team job in 23.
He's coming to NYCFC. Come on.
That's true. He is coming to NYCFC. He's probably going to have one of the top floor apartment condo things, or he's going to have like the most expensive room in the hotel. Whatever the most expensive room in the hotel is there in that 250. In the
Pep's a Manhattan guy, bro. Like it's not happening. Like I'm a Queens guy. He's a Manhattan guy. He's not as luxurious as that might set up could be for him. He'll be in Manhattan for sure.
So, all right.
Somewhere along Central Park West.
I was going to say, what's the ritzy schmitziest place that he could be in Manhattan when he comes to town?
Yeah, I mean, you've had guys, Thierry Henry, I think, was down like Tribeca. I think, I forgot where Vieira was living. Dome was in Manhattan as well. Yeah, you can go Central Park West. You can go, Tribeca is another spot. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it's Manhattan, right? So, like, I think anywhere you go, I think it's gonna be a ritzy area.
And he'll have a town car at his disposal to take him to and from practice at Willets Point. Dylan, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend. In 30 minutes' time, we can't wait for the rollout, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, of Dylan Butler Stadium.
It's happening. Listen, the mayor's going. I got the notice last night, so the mayor of New York City will be there. So
at 11 o'clock, the rollout of Dylan Butler Stadium at Willets Point, the new future home of NYCFC and everything Dylan Butler. What's the latest with you? With we found out what's going on with high school. I'm a couple of weeks behind you for our 3-day extravaganza where it's 13 games in 3 days, including flag and high school football championships. And I will lose 10 pounds by the time we're done. So what else is going on with you at MLSsoccer.com and OSDB?
Yeah, no more. Obviously World Cup is front and center, right? So I'll have a big World Cup preview for OSDBSports.com and working on a story for MLS. Looking back a little bit to the last time the U.S. played England in the World Cup and kind of revisiting it with some of those players from that team. So that should be fun.
Very, very cool. At Dylan_Butler. Enjoy the rest of your day with your dad mug. Go enjoy the rollout of Dylan Butler Stadium. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
All right, buddy.
All right, Dylan Butler. Dylan_Butler. And he's leaving right now. He's going to the roof. He's heading to the roof. He's hopping in the helicopter, and he's heading to the rollout of Dylan Butler Stadium there at Willets Point. We cannot wait. I want to see him with the big pair of scissors, with they have like the red tape with the things at the movie theaters to keep you from crashing the lines. You'll have like a bunch of dignitaries. The mayor of New York City is going to be there. You'll have them all sitting there and holding that little piece of the red tape. Dylan comes crashing in with the big mega pair of scissors. He sits there and he goes like this, and he chops it up. And so that makes it officially official that Dylan Butler Stadium, Willets Point, press conference with the mayor of New York City coming up the top of the hour. And Dylan himself is going to cut the scissors and the red tape to get the thing started. So it's always fun to catch up with Dylan.